Hello. Yesterday I talked about chief feature, and then I was thinking, oh, I keep talking about self-love and self-vanity, and Gurdjieff is quite a good name for all this kind of thing. So I thought I'd do some quotes from that about vanity and self-love. This is from Views from the Real World, page 267. We have many independent enemies, but the chief and most active are vanity and self-love. One teaching even calls them representatives and messengers of the devil himself. For some reason, they are also called Mrs. Vanity and Mr. Self-Love. We have to deal with our enemies indirectly in order to free ourselves from several at once. These representatives of the devil stand unceasingly at the threshold that separates us from the outside and prevent not only good but also bad influences from entering. Thus, they have a good side as well as a bad side. If a man wishes all influences to enter, for it is impossible to select only the good ones, he must liberate himself from these watchmen. I would advise you to try freeing yourselves and to do so without unnecessary theorizing, by simple reasoning, active reasoning with yourselves. So, Mrs. Vanity and Mr. Self-Love, sent to us by the devils. And maybe the devils do that. Maybe the devil's here. Well, I know the devil's here to distract us from our work. The devil's here to tempt us. You know, the devil's mission is to keep us away from rejoining with the divine. You know, that's all the devil wants to do. And he's got so many different ways of doing it. And he says these little cohorts of devils who all come in different guises. Some of you might have read the Ouspensky book that I put up recently, all about when um, all about when the devil tells the character, well, Ouspensky, about how he makes the devils tempt us and make us distracts us from our lives and disorientates us in our lives. I thought it was a fascinating book. I remember reading it the first time, and it was something that's always rung true with me. You know, I'm a kind of a bit of a believer in these little devils and sprites that come round to distract us from our work, poke us when we don't want it, to try and lead us in other ways with temptations of delight. They're kind of like, you know, even though the Kunda has been taken off us, where we see everything topsy turvy, and the Kunda was making us want pleasure all the time and to enjoy ourselves. Well, the devil's still offering us them things. The devil still is like that Kunda. Yeah, have some little, you know, niceties, and ups the ego and makes everyone feel good and pampers our vanity, Mrs. Vanity and Mr. Self-Love. Fantastic. So life is real, only I am, page 79. This kind of contemporary this kind of contemporary people, thoroughly stuffed with all kinds of such beautiful properties as conceit, vanity, ambition, flattery, and so on. I can't even speak. I'm so excited by it all. But you know, these are the kinds of things we're trying to avoid being. When we recognize them in other people, it's easy to see it in other people, but can we recognize it in ourselves? Do we see what's going on in ourselves when we're having a little bit of self-love and a bit of self-vanity? So all and everything, the good old book of Gurdjieff's, page 356. Factors which have been formed in their common presences, owing as always to the same consequences of the properties of the organ Kundabuffer, as for instance vanity, self-love, pride, self-conceit, so they believe any old tale. It's kind of like the 7 vices that are in the Bible. We're trying to avoid all that and instead have the 7 goodnesses, the great things that we need. You know, love, not self-love, compassionate love, wisdom, enjoying life, but in a way that's not using these, should we say, negative traits. Maybe that's a bit strong. But it's interesting in the first paragraph I read, Gurdjieff saying we need to let them all in because we can't choose which ones we want to come in. We've just got to pick out the good ones from it and use them, make use of them. And he goes on in All and Everything, repeating quite a lot these words because he wants it to get into us. We need to know this. Envy, pride, self-love, vanity, lying, and so on. Swagger, pride, self-love, vanity, self-conceit, self-enamoredness, envy, hate, offensiveness, egoism, partiality, vanity, self-love. And these are all on different pages throughout Beelzebub's Tales, All and Everything, to remind us this is not what we want to be. And I suppose you could say from the Old Testament, it does a lot about these same subjects, these traits that we don't want to be following, but are so easily led to them. And these are the devil's ways of getting us into his grip and to distract us from God. I'm not saying that we become devil worshippers or anything. It's the opposite. He's trying to make us not worship anything, have any belief, and to be all about ourselves. We don't want to be about ourselves. We want to be part of the harmonious cosmos and the harmonious laws and the workings of all that. So All and Everything, page 1087. Aristocrats who are distinguished by the cognomens given to them, such as Prince, the consonants of which for some reason or other acts extremely pleasantly on that function of your favourite, which is always very strongly expressed in them, which remains up to their very depth, and which is called vanity. And we don't want it to stay with us till our death. We don't want to have them kind of ways of thinking to our death. By the time we die, we want to be prepared to go on to the next life and to be part of the, as I was saying, the cosmic world order. And we want to have built our other bodies so that we can go on into with our soul onwards, with a purified soul, hopefully. So, in Search of the Miraculous, page 152, Spensby writes, a man inwardly requires that everyone should see what a remarkable man he is, and that they should constantly give expression to their respect, esteem, and admiration for him, for his intellect, his beauty, his cleverness, his wit, his presence of mind, his originality, and all his other qualities. Oh, to be put onto a pedestal and adored. We've all wanted that as we've grown up. We're young kids, as we want to be friends with all the other kids. We want to be liked. As we're teenagers, we want to be respected for being cool or being clever or being, beautiful, or, whatever it is that we were going for in them days. I remember as a teenager, I wanted to be cool rather than popular. Some people want to be popular and liked by everyone. I just wanted to be cool and looked at as if, oh, look at cool Debbie doing all the cool things and being so hip, And we're trying to outgrow all that. But most people, as Gurdjieff says, people don't grow up. They carry on being like that into their adult life instead of maturing. It's like growing into becoming an adult seems to stop at a certain age. And I remember Jerry Seinfeld, the comedian, was saying about how you could tell what age a man would suddenly be married and having kids by the way he dresses, because it's like he carries on dressing in the same way he did when he first got caught up to being married. And hopefully you men would understand what I'm saying here. So their dress sense never changes because they're still stuck in that dress sense, because they've not matured into themselves. They've got stuck in having a family and kids, and hopefully not all men. Many men I know have progressed still, thankfully, but I'm talking about the people that don't study anything and aren't trying to develop themselves. They become happy in the role they're playing and stay with it. Well, we're trying to enlarge our role so that we take on the work, the cosmic work. And we don't want to be sitting on a pedestal being adored. Though it is quite funny in the Bible, that's what happens to God all the time. I've been reading the book of Revelation lately quite a lot because I thought it was the end times last year, and how all the pious ones and the angels sitting there adoring God. Holy, holy art thou, and all that. So it's okay for God to be put on a pedestal and be adored, but maybe that's not how his endlessness is in Gurdjieff's terms. I hope it's a different kind of working with God. We're not sitting there adoring God. We're appreciating him and respecting him, but hopefully we end up being part of the system and working. Now, the book of Revelation is a very interesting book to be reading. So this is a question and answer session from Q, and I've forgotten what Q is. Anyway, question. Why in the best moments as in the worst does vanity always come in? Whether one succeeds in an exercise or fails, there is always a pretext for vanity. And Gurdjieff replies, vanity has become the foundation stone, the dominant factor of your organism. When another factor, another impulse appears, your vanity functions at the same time, and as it is strongest, it submerges and dominates all. This is an important fact of the human psyche, sometimes quite a little thing that can stop all inner work. Objectively, it is a very small thing, but for the one who has to bear it, it is a great enemy. You can do nothing against it. It is an organic enemy. It is 1,000 times stronger than you. It kills everything. It is necessary to strengthen your individuality, your true I, 10,000 times more. When the latter becomes capable of directing your functions, then you should try to make to your vanity. You used to love saying that. At present, it is impossible, but strive to diminish its power. Strive with the help of the exercises which I have given you, and you can find these in Gurdjieff's books. New factors will form in you. Let them crystallize in you, and you will see that automatically vanity will diminish. Among other things, bon ton books, so-called educative books, have taught you that this factor was necessary in life. And it is put across that way to many people. But, you know, I'm sure you know we have vanity is a big thing in being we'll put it out there all the time. You know, we've got the things like the Kardashians who are supposed to look perfect, but then are photoshopping their photos all the time, so they don't really look perfect. They just look perfect when they've been photoshopped. You know, vanity of all this wearing makeup. Women must wear makeup to look beautiful. Well, I don't wear makeup for many different reasons. You know, I don't like animal testing. I know they do makeup now that's not got animal testing, but I like the natural look on people myself. Vanity of what you're wearing and wearing the newest fashions and things like that, having the newest phone and things like that. Oh, look how cool I am with my new phone, iPad, whatever, number 27,000, whatever this technology it's on. Oh, I'm ranting there. Right then. Oh yeah, so I was going to go on about how educative books. And I remember when I was a kid, my mum used to bring all her books out from when she was a teenager, and it was all about how one sits, how one walks, all these books on how the woman should be the perfect woman. And then in my teen years, all the guys that I used to hang out with had all the latest fashion magazines, because men's magazines were coming out then, so they're all trying to perfect themselves to be like that, you know, rather than being themselves. They were trying to copy, imitate others, because they wanted to have the same esteem, regards, you know, slaps on the back from them, or claps as they walk down the road, as these people that they were watching on pedestals or looking up at on their pedestals. Do we need all that? And also when we're doing this work, do we need that? Do we want to be looked at and admired for, you know, developing yourself? Oh, how wonderful you are to develop yourself. In some ways it should be a private thing, but hopefully we can influence others through it as well. But we don't want to be worshipped for it, adored, you know, put on that pedestal. No pedestals, peoples. Unless you're getting on one of them pedestals to meditate like they used to in the olden days. The monks used to sit up high on a tower and meditate. And you know, maybe that's a good enough pedestal, possibly. Not a pedestal to be admired on. Everything is done to crystallize vanity in children. And isn't that getting worse? Aren't children from a younger and younger age trying to become like adults because they're being told to be or being made like that by their parents or their schools? Could go on forever about all this. As you're probably aware, there's a lot of gender issues going on. And I'm not anti-genders, other genders in any way, kind of thing. But at the same time, I don't want it put on young kids. You know, let people decide when they're of a certain age, you know, perhaps in their 20s, once they've got through their teen years and had all their hormones going up and down. Instead, we should be educating children in this kind of work, or, you know, not necessarily Gurdjieff work. That would be great. You know, we need Gurdjieff schools for children. You know, Steiner's got Waldorf schools for children. They're not teaching them Steiner stuff, but they're teaching them how to be real people. And that's what we should be educating children in this day. Everything is done to crystallize vanity in children. It was not considered that when you would be grown up, you would take another road. Exactly. You know, as we're being brought up in our schools, or have been, they assume that we're just going to join the rat race and follow along with everybody else. You know, sadly, people like us do think differently, but then Gurdjieff made this work so we could live in this world. Don't need to go off and become a monk in a cave, or a, you know, a yogi in the desert or whatever. You know, it's to help us live in this world, in the lunatic asylum, as he calls it. And it is a lunatic asylum. Right, so it was not considered that when you would be grown up, you would take another road, and changing the road, that is very difficult. On the other road, vanity would be very valuable, but for your inner life, it is your dog number one. And your dog's the thing that's getting, you know, getting in the way. Even though I love my dogs, and I'm sure you all love dogs too. I hope you're all animal lovers, as Gurdjieff says. Practice on animals first. So Margaret Anderson says, vanity is a foolish display of what you haven't got. Vanity belongs to the body. I'm going to go to a wonderful Mr. Knott, C.S. Knott. Among these enemies, two of the chief are vanity, Madam Vanity, and self-love, Mr. Self-love. These representatives of the devil stand all the time on the threshold and prevent not only good, but bad influences coming in. They have a bad side and a good side. So they can be used in some ways. You know, we're going to need a little bit of vanity and a little bit of self-love to help us with something, but only you will know what that is, and your conscience will tell you. They are a kind of sentinel, and I personally advise you to deal with them by reasoning simply and actively with yourself. And he goes on to say, he tried in every way to decrystallize the already crystallized vanity and conceit in people, the fundamental cause of almost all the misunderstandings arising in the inner world of man, as well as in the process of the communal life of people, is chiefly that psychic factor which is found in man's being during the period of preparatory age exclusively on account of a wrong education, and in the period of responsible age, each stimulation of which gives birth to him in the impulses of vanity and self-conceit. So, peoples, hopefully you will not let Madame Vanity and Mr. Self-Love get in the way of your development. Find the true meaning of love and what love is, you know, compassionate love. And I've done in other shows about love and how there's 7 different versions of love. But definitely read the Gurdjieff's writings, and the Spence's writings, and Knott's books are fantastic as well, to help you get a deeper understanding of what he's meaning about figuring out what to do with Mrs. Vanity and Mr. Self-Love. Till next time.